In this episode, our guest, Alisa Patel, Vice President of Human Resources at Aalberts Surface Technologies, who is based out of their Livonia, Michigan location, will guide us through the very practical steps that someone should consider if they want to get promoted at work. This episode may also be helpful if you know someone who should be promoted and you think the following insights and knowledge would be helpful to this person that you're rooting for. Alisa, welcome to Brain Chatter.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate you having me here today and looking forward to our discussion.
Of course. Today's topic, as we said, is how to get promoted at work. And Alisa, let's begin with my assumption. If I went to any local store in North America and asked the first 100 people I encountered the following question, I think I know what they might say. And here's the question. If you or I want to get promoted at work, what do we need to do? I think most people's advice would be, you need to work hard and be dependable. But if we went to 100 offices of HR managers or offices of 100 frontline managers or supervisors, I think we would hear the same response, but with a few more things on the list. In other words, there's more to it than that. Am I correct? Does this match your experience, or am I wrong about that?
Yes, that's correct. There's multiple factors that should be considered when an employee is going to be promotable. We'll definitely cover those today during our discussion and looking forward to getting into those.
Thank you. Well, let's start with this question. What are your top pieces of advice to someone who wants to get promoted at work?
Yeah, so I would say there's probably a few pieces of advice. First one being individuals should be patient. Sometimes advancing within a company does take a little bit of time, especially depending on the size of the company. So hacking your patience, I think, and not having unrealistic expectations about timing for advancing within a company would be one. Making sure employees communicate their interest in advancing and moving forward within the company. Owning responsibility for filling in the gaps. So taking accountability for communicating with your manager, letting them know that you're interested in moving up, and then being responsible for asking for additional projects or training or maybe furthering education, those types of things, and working with your manager on filling those gaps. And then lastly, understanding the big picture. So having a good understanding of not just what you do in your current role in your current department, but understanding why the company is in business, what they do, how your work makes an impact to the overall company. And I think it's the individuals who show more of that interest in the overall organization that will help them advance into other areas of the business, not just maybe taking the same career path within a particular department.
That makes sense. And one part of what you said certainly matches a lot of my experience about poor communication being a big time tripping hazard for both the person wanting to be promoted and the manager who needs to raise up talent. In other words, it may come as a surprise to some, but communicating about an interest in being promoted, as you've just said, is actually a two-way street. What is your experience with how often people fail to recognize that?
Yeah, I agree. Both the employee and the manager both play a role in this partnership together. So on the employee side of things, they should be driving their career path. The support should come from their manager and then potentially from the human resources department. So having those discussions about the aspirations, working together, again, with your manager on how to close the gaps that might be there between somebody's current role and then the role that they're looking to get into. Really, the manager should be that person's, like you said, have their back, be their cheerleader. Maybe they can keep an ear out for other experiences or other opportunities internally that individual could participate in, and which could ultimately help them down the road.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about two different types of promotions. There may be other options here, but as I think about it, one type of promotion is where a person wants a better job for them. Maybe that means a position that has better pay, hours that are better for them and their family, maybe a better location for them to work out of, or other elements that have more appeal but do not actually come with any sort of supervision of other people. The other type of promotion comes not just with technical expertise requirements, but also comes with supervising other people. In this episode, let's talk about both options. How do you view these two different types of promotions as you work in HR and advise managers and folks on the front lines?
Yeah, so both of those options do involve moving up, and they do involve career advancement of some type. There's lots of different companies out there, big, medium, small. They are all offering different types of opportunities and positions and departments within them. Some opportunities involve managing others, and then some don't. And I think, understanding your own strengths and what you personally can contribute, because some people are better being in an individual contributor role where they're managing more of a function than a full department or multiple direct reports. Other individuals may have a passion for, you mentioned, maybe more of a technical type role, or maybe, even coaching and mentoring and managing other people. So I think both of those opportunities are considered promotions. It's just certain roles might be better for different individuals, and understanding your strengths that can play into that will be really important in deciding or helping you decide which path it is that you should be taking.
That makes sense. So if I am one of those people who just wants to remain an individual contributor, maybe I am really happy being a welder or an accountant or a programmer or whatever it is, I don't want to supervise other people. Is there any unique advice you would have for me?
Yeah, I would say again, take into account all the opportunities that are available for those types of tracks. So you could look at, maybe there's a remote opportunity available, and there could be other paths to take, again, that don't involve supervision, but maybe involve overseeing a particular function as opposed to a group of people.
If I am a person, in contrast, who does want a better job, but I do want to supervise or manage people for the first time, what would be your unique advice for me if it is different?
So I think, again, coming back to working with your manager to try to get them to assist in gaining exposure or various experiences that would give you the option for supervision in a safe space before even taking on a new role. So something in your current role, for example, maybe you could take on a temporary project, or maybe you could oversee an intern for a summer project, or something like that. Moving from a peer to a supervisor can be a challenging transition, and sometimes it looks easier than it truly is. So I think having that safe space to practice or to try it out first before committing to a full role where you are supervising other individuals may be helpful. There's other training out there. There's role playing you could do with the manager or other team members. There's formal education. So there's courses and workshops and things externally that somebody could take a look at as well to help with understanding, is this something that I truly want? And giving them the exposure and experience to try it first before committing.
As I think about my interest in a promotion, would you recommend that I only talk with my direct supervisor to let them know? Or do I also need to talk with human resources? Do I need to tell only one of those people or both? What is the proper etiquette there?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important for your manager to be aware. I think it may also be a good idea to inform HR as well, just so that there's another set of eyes and ears out there. Depending on the size of the company that you work for, HR may have access to a larger scope. So, for example, I have a pretty large network within the company that I'm working at. So while there may not be an opportunity within our division, I may know of other opportunities still within the company, but in other sister companies under our larger umbrella. So, there's been times when I have been unaware of employees who are looking to move up, and When I do find out that they're interested, or I find out that they're attending some school programs that we could use in the future, it's just good for HR to be aware as they're planning, making plans for succession planning and workforce development for the future.
Speaking of which, what if I think that I'm not qualified for a promotion? Maybe I don't have a particular skill set, whatever credential may be required, etc. Should I still talk with HR or my supervisor about my interest in that position, even if I fear I'm not currently qualified?
Yes, I think you should. I think that HR and your supervisor or manager are there to help guide you on offering suggestions, maybe helping you to close that gap, coming up with ideas and suggestions of ways to build upon the skills that maybe you're not strong in so that it can help you get to that next level. So keeping those lines of communication open, I think, is always a great idea.
They say the squeaky wheel always gets the WD-40 or something like that. If I'm interested in a different promotion, how often should I check in with my supervisor or check in with the manager or check in and stop by human resources just to remind them while not doing it enough to be annoying?
Yeah, I mean, I think at a minimum, it's important to discuss career goals once a year during the annual performance review time, if that's something that's built into the company programs. Uh, we do build that question right into our performance review document. So it is a question that is, at least on an annual basis, addressed and discussed. Another great time to discuss that is when you see an opportunity is open. So expressing interest, even if you're not qualified, helps keep the company informed, whether it's, again, supervisor, manager, HR. It just helps keep them informed of your plans, and they can help guide you on how to potentially get there. There's definitely a way to keep the lines of communication open without being, quote unquote, annoying or feeling like you're bringing it up too often.
Makes sense. So, Alisa, you've seen a lot of promotions over your career. I'm guessing we're in the hundreds, maybe even the thousands that you've seen. Is that correct?
Yes, I would
Yeah.
say so.
So, if you outlined the most appealing attributes that you've seen over all of those promotions, those attributes that make a person truly shine or stand out and is a person who clearly you want to see promoted, what would those attributes be?
Yeah, I would say somebody who has patience. I think, again, coming in with realistic expectations about sometimes promotions and advancement opportunities don't happen overnight, and they don't happen within a week or a month or when you're ready for it. So sometimes you need to be patient and wait for the opportunity to become available, or wait for you to get yourself to a position where you are able to take on that next role. I think hard work will also play into that. It's not necessarily about the long hours, but it's more about the actual contributions or the value to the company to help them grow. Being able to highlight accomplishments without bragging about them. So sometimes other people, including your manager, may not be aware of what you have going on or what you've accomplished. So making sure that you make others aware, not in a bragging way, but just, in more of a proud way. I think that helps to bring the accomplishments to light. Somebody who's a team player, somebody who demonstrates company core values on a daily basis, um, somebody who constantly has the company's best interest in mind. I think those go a long way to make people notice. And, if you're not being noticed and you do get frustrated along the way, making sure that you're venting to the appropriate people if you feel like you need to vent. So not to turn it into a gossip session, of course, but just knowing, keeping it professional, keeping it respectful. And I think that's why I listed patience as number one, because I think that is one of the biggest keys.
Certainly matches my experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's contrast that last question with this question. Could you describe a person who is extremely difficult to promote? And I'm assuming you've seen at least a few of those over the years.
I've seen a few of those, yes. I would say individuals who come to work with a negative tone, somebody who is not demonstrating the company core values, somebody who's not open to feedback, or not open to working on different tasks or responsibilities to advance their career. Somebody who comes in and who's very closed off and not following company policies and procedures, such as, attendance is always a big one, especially in the industry that I'm working in. So call-offs definitely show unreliability, tardies, excessive absences, those types of things. I think companies pay attention to that. They're completely understanding if, things happen, life happens, people have families and personal lives, but when it interferes a lot and it affects attendance, on a consistent basis, those are individuals that are more difficult to put into a promotion category.
Let me pause here and do an introduction of you, Alisa, for all those listening. Alisa Patel is a strategic, people-focused HR executive with more than 2 decades of experience leading human resources initiatives that both drive business performance and employee engagement. She currently serves as Vice President of Human Resources at Aalberts Surface Technology, where she partners closely with the senior leadership team to shape workforce strategy, strengthen organizational development, and align HR practices with the broader business goals. Alisa is a certified SHRM-CP and a graduate of the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business Executive Program in Strategic HR Planning. She's deeply committed to continuous learning and advancing excellence in the HR field. Her experience spans employee relations, workforce planning, talent development, internal communications, and benefits strategy, all with a focus on building strong, inclusive, and high-performing workplace cultures. At the core of her work, Alisa is passionate about empowering teams and creating people-first solutions that support long-term growth, productivity, and organizational success. Alisa, if you don't mind, would you please tell us a little bit more about Aalberts Surface Technologies and what the company does at its locations all over North America, Europe, and Asia?
Sure. Yeah. Alberts is a global Dutch industrial technology company who designs and manufactures specialized engineering systems and components that are used in buildings, manufacturing, transportation, and semiconductor production. So the headquarters is based out of the Netherlands in Utrecht. The company was founded in 1975, so we just celebrated the 50th anniversary last year, which was really exciting. And we have 13,000 employees worldwide under 3 main segments. So there's a building technology segment that is technologies that are used in commercial and residential buildings. There's a semiconductor and advanced manufacturing group, which is highly specialized in equipment and systems using high-tech industries such as precision mechatronics, ultra-clean fluid handling systems, components, and semiconductor manufacturing equipment. And then the group that I'm part of, which you mentioned, is the Surface Technologies group. So that is part of industrial technologies, so improving manufacturing performance. So we do surface treatment, heat treatment, and the technologies that we do in all 3 segments are used in a variety of industries, from building construction and HVAC, automotive and aerospace, industrial manufacturing, semiconductor and electronics production, and then energy and transportation.
Fascinating. Thank you. Alisa, you and I have both experienced situations where a supervisor, a manager, a general manager, or executive is upset and lamenting to us about the following. I can't believe so-and-so left the company. They had such a bright future here. And then you or I or someone else asks this question. Well, did you talk with them about your plan for their career potential here? And the answer is always something like, well, no, they should have known. It should have been obvious. The assumption of others being psychic is pretty ridiculous, but this seems to happen quite a bit. Would you talk about the importance of actually communicating succession planning and not storing it silently in the manager's brain?
Yes, this does happen quite a bit. So employees definitely need to know where they stand, so both on a positive and developmental side. And it is okay for employees to approach their manager and ask for feedback if they're not getting it. So basically taking the driver's seat of their career path, right? If we are not communicating to our highest potentials, they will definitely seek opportunities elsewhere. Somebody else will snag them. It is a hot market out there for a lot of different industries and a lot of different functional opportunities. So we've run the numbers. We've looked at them internally here as well. There's a cost to replace a top performer, depending on their level in the company, can be anywhere from 1.5 to 4 times their annual salary. You take into consideration recruiting time and interviewing, and then the team productivity when you lose a team member, and training up a new person and having that person get to the same level of the employee who was leaving. That all takes time and money. So to save the headache and the heartache that comes with that, focusing on letting the high potential employee know, or letting employees know where they stand, is super key.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
another scenario you and I have both experienced goes something like this. Person A gets a promotion, and then person B is very unhappy that they did not get offered that job, but person B had never expressed any interest in that job to either the supervisor or HR. Back to our earlier discussion and back also to our psychic assumptions. What is your experience about this, and what happens as a result?
Yeah, unfortunately, this occurs often as well. So this situation that you explained can lead the employee B to get frustrated and leave, feeling like they won't ever be able to get a shot. So it could also lead to negativity if they do stay on with the company, could lead to performance decline. So once we find out about their goals and aspirations, if they stay and they're on a path, it is important to communicate and work together to come up with a plan for the next time that an opportunity does come up available. And that person can be approached when that does happen. And then they feel like they're part of the plan and part of the program and part of the discussions. So it helps keep them engaged as well.
Do you have any advice for a person who is frustrated with their current situation inside the company? Do you have any advice for that person before they take a job with another company? For instance, is there any advantage to talking with HR at my company before I put in my notice and before I accept a position with another company?
Yeah, I think it's important to be open and transparent with your manager, being able to feel like you're comfortable enough to express your frustrations. Oftentimes, if they're at that higher level and they understand the strategic plans of the company, they may be aware of new roles or opportunities that could be coming down the road that you haven't heard about yet. So speaking with them, either when you're frustrated or when you are toying with the opportunity of another job offer before you give your 2 weeks notice, especially if you have an interest in staying. Just also being aware, oftentimes companies can sometimes counter offer to keep you presently where you are by, maybe offering more dollars or different benefits. But it is important for you to take a look at, why it is that you'd be looking to leave. If it's for the other opportunity and your current employer can't match it, that's one thing. If you decide to stay because an opportunity is matched or there's increased benefits or whatnot, you may still have those same frustrations in the future if nothing changes. So I think being aware of those things and just maybe creating the pros and cons list, and again being transparent and open with your manager to help walk you through coming to different decisions, I think it would be helpful as well.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. And sometimes we know somebody takes a position at another company and then realizes the grass is not actually greener on that other side of the fence like they thought. So now they're at a different company and they may want to come back. And so, what is your advice about how to leave an employer in a way that maximizes the chance that the door is still open to return if I get into that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had that happen here before. I've had it happen in other companies I've worked for as well. I think the individuals who are leaving in a professional and courteous manner, so, giving appropriate notice, so between 2 and 3 weeks, depending on your level of position within the company, ensuring that there's a smooth transition to the new replacement if that person is currently working there, making sure you're documenting your responsibilities, keeping a positive attitude those last couple weeks. If the company does offer an exit interview, being professional and providing professional feedback during the exit interview. A lot of the times, we're all human. We all want our direct reports to do what's best for them. We're happy for people if they find something else that's a better fit for them. But sometimes, as you say, maybe it's not greener on the other side. And if you're leaving on really good terms and you keep that door open and you keep that relationship solid, they're more than willing to at least have a discussion with you about returning or, possibly even rehiring you afterwards. We've had individuals who have left before and they've wanted to return, and those who have left on good terms, we've left the door open and we've definitely had them back, and we've had them back for a long time. So it does work out.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. When you think about the best career advice that anyone has ever given you across your life, what was that best advice?
Yeah, I think being an advocate for yourself, being your own cheerleader, owning your career path, so taking charge of your own path, I think is really important. Not being afraid to make mistakes, learning from the mistakes so you don't make them again. Speaking up and offering opinions for suggestions or ideas for improvement to help the company. I think those are all some key items. And then lastly, just for your own personal development, just constantly looking out for new learning opportunities. So whether it's on a professional development basis, so some companies do offer this as a benefit, tuition assistance programs, those types of things, to go back and take more schooling or go out and attend a 2-day conference or something like that will help you in your own professional development. So not forgetting that you yourself should be continuing to grow, that you can continue to focus on that in your job.
Thank you. So, Alisa, what else should I have asked you that I did not, or is there anything else that you would just like to add?
Yeah, I think lastly, just to wrap up what we talked about today, being promotable is not just about doing your job well. It's about having that bigger picture. It's about showing that you're ready for the next position, showing up with a positive attitude, helping to be available to solve problems, helping others around you be successful, showing that you're a trustworthy employee, continuing to grow. All those things are really important to advancing yourself and will get you noticed. So hopefully I was able to impart some wisdom to the listeners today, and wanted to thank you, Derek, for having me today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alisa, for being so generous with your experience and your time. And for those who are listening, I'll make sure to post a link to your LinkedIn in case they want to connect with you offline. And any other resources that we mentioned, those links will also be available at brainchatterpodcast.com. Thank you so much, Alisa.
Thank you.